Welcome back to the big board. We have a hair on the camera. You know whose hair that is? Let me show you whose hair that is. Yeah, that's Whiskey's hair. He's molting. Anyway, we're not here to talk about molting dogs. We're here to talk about something I had I won't say it was an epiphany because, we don't think great thoughts here, but I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast and there was some lady on there talking about, in essence, brainwashing and some other stuff and how we grow to think about things and belonging in groups and tribalism and stuff like that. And it's pretty interesting. It's a 3-hour podcast. I don't have the patience to listen to it unless I put it on 1.5 speed or something. But it got me thinking about wargaming and and the ways in which we have kind of this accepted dogma about certain aspects of the hobby. And I think there was a fantastic phrase used in the conversation. It was adopted opinions. And and by that, I think what they were saying in their context was, you like something because everyone else likes it, and you don't want to feel stupid when you don't like it, and you then need to have a good rationale and justification for not liking something. So you don't want to go through all that hassle and trouble, and you don't want to stand out and be the person outside the crowd, and you want to belong, I guess, in whatever group or club or tribe or movement or cult or thing that you're in, right? So you don't want to have those sort of outlier opinions on bits and pieces of life and whatever. And so with wargaming, it struck me, and I was like, well, what adopted opinions do we have? And this is, I'm going to leave this here for you guys, hopefully, to share your thoughts and opinions on what you think adopted opinions are and what dogma there is around it in the hobby. So feel free to comment and let's talk about this, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video or something based on your comments. But so for instance, Red Simonson, the artist for SBI, it's an accepted opinion by nearly every single person I've ever met who's played a war game, and let's just say folks probably over 45, right? Who've probably played an SBI game from the 80s and the 70s. Best art ever, clean, simple, perfect, wonderful, the best, right? Sometimes I don't like his maps. I don't like the artwork, and I don't like the counters and whatnot. Does that make me not part of the wargame tribe? No, it doesn't, but it means I can have a different opinion. I think the same thing we could say about Hex and Counter. It's the wargamer that says Hex and Counter war games are war games and are the best war games and the only war games. Well, there are times when area movement works perfectly or point to point works perfectly, but it's in some ways to me, as I'm thinking through this, it's an adopted opinion that Hex and Counter is the best, right? And I would imagine for Euro gamers or Ameritrash gamers or whatever, it may be that deck building is the best way to play games together, or co-op games are the best way to play games together. Non-violent, non-conflict games are the best games to play. So we take these adopted opinions, and then sometimes we just dig our heels on them, and it excludes us from being part of the group, number one, or excluding others from the group, number one. Number two, it potentially allows us or presents us with missed opportunities where we might miss out on a game that is fantastic. That's not a Hex and Counter game, or the map art isn't done in a certain style, or whatever the case may be. It's like saying the SBI Wargame magazine editions were the best games of all time, and Year of the Rat was the best war game about Vietnam because it was the first war game about Vietnam, and it was groundbreaking for its time because it was designed while the war was going on, and yada 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 yada. Right? It's a pretty shitty game regardless of what you think. It has nothing to do with Vietnam, and it was just broken and wrong for a lot of reasons. You could still play it and enjoy it as a game, but it really didn't represent what we now know about Vietnam. Now, that's all hindsight 2020 stuff, so it's all good, right? But it's not a great game to me. To you, it may be because you're bound perhaps by this adopted opinion or by nostalgia. Nostalgia is another big factor in all this, I think, too. I think the same goes to Avalon Hill games. Avalon Hill games were the best and the greatest, and Victory games were the best and the greatest, and yada yada yada. We all have these GDW and Europa and all this stuff, right? Now I mentioned that in the context of sort of our historical view, and maybe new wargamers coming in and then looking at some of these older games and going, man, what's the deal with this 2-color art map or 3-color art map? And back in the days when there was the oil shortage, and so there were no dice in the games and stuff like that. It's hard for people criticize them with a modern eye. Sometimes wargamers and the grognards, right, get their backs up about things. We gotta sort of give some grace and put some context around things. And same goes for the younger players who are coming into the hobby, who are criticizing things and trying these older games because they've been told it's the best ever. Upfront is the most fantastic game, blah blah blah. When you've got to put things in historical context, where the game came from, when was it designed, who designed it. I mean, there's, Richard Berg, most prolific, fantastic game designer ever. Yeah, not so much. Richie had a reputation, he had a troubled life, and he made some stinkers, right? He also made some epic games as well. He's a great designer as far as I'm concerned. I love the guy. I was always at it with him, but I love the guy. And that, I was thinking about all that, and I'd love to get your thoughts and opinions on that kind of segment of adopted opinions. But the other part about adopted opinions is new wargamers and other folks coming into this small segment of the board gaming hobby, wargaming, saying, oh, well, wargames are too complex. And that opinion has kind of been adopted by some YouTubers who have sort of pushed the narrative around, well, we've got to dumb down games and we've got to make them simpler and more accessible, and why do we have to have all this conflict? And we got to have, basically I'll use the word DEI for the context around race and sexuality and everything else, right? We've got to have, even though it's not historically accurate, we got to have the white guy, the Asian guy, and the black guy on the cover because that will keep it racially diverse and more inclusive. And can we get rid of the violence, right? We need less violence. We can have conflict, but let's have a gentle conflict. There's a movement going on with that as well, and I don't want to make this video about the very small but vocal, goofy minority that are sitting in the corner, stamping their feet, going, "We need to make the tent bigger, and we need to do all these things." I really don't give a fuck what those people think or do. I think their day has come and gone. Unfortunately, we have some publishers who are still buying into that because they want to embrace larger markets, and we'll see if they pay the price for it or not. But this whole movement to this dogma, this adopted opinion around let's reclassify wargaming and let's make it more open, and let's not make it such a closed hobby. I would encourage all of us to be thinking about wargaming first as an opportunity to explore the history of conflict, the history of battle, the history of armed warfare, and that there are games that can be gateway games and opportunities to explore those topics that don't necessarily need you to make pew 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 sounds, but and they might just be putting a block down and taking a block off the board, so no people are harmed in the context of the game. But an area control game, basically, right? But when it comes down to the more detailed and interesting and fascinating to me, and to a lot of folks that I know, most of the wargamers I know, we want to know the armaments and the capabilities of a particular battalion and division against the enemy's battalions and divisions, and we want to explore the what if, and what if Rommel did X, what if Montgomery did Y, how could we explore all this together and have a bit of fun with it, of course. Can we play opposed and have some fun with it? I'd like to be able to think that we can do that and not lose the notions of wargaming and having to open that umbrella or that tent up so much that it becomes an exploration of social conflicts. I'll probably avoid naming games because we don't need to. I think we know who they all are, and we know the designers that make them. Some of the designers are harmless. They're doing what they need to do to sell as many games as possible to the largest audience possible. God bless them, but they're off my radar, right? Because they're not war games that some of these folks are making, even though they're included in, alleged fantastic or revered wargaming award ceremonies and competitions. The other thing I wanted to talk about or touch on was as I was thinking about these adopted opinions, the VCS system is one where we've all kind of lauded that system as a innovative thing in its time and creative, and it's been long-lived. It's carried on. I'm going to switch camera out. Carried on into Spring Prelude. Do you guys say prelude or prelude? I am so lost, having lived in the US for so long. I don't know how to pronounce it anymore. But anyway, I read the rules, and I was like, you know what? How similar is this to Kharkov battles before and after Fall Blau, and what scale differences and stuff like that, right? And so it got me thinking about the game system and how it can be applied to multiple scales. It's interesting in this particular one. Spring Prelude is 3 miles a hex, I think, and Kharkov battles was 6.5. Now it's I shouldn't say that it's similar times, because I don't know. I forget which battles Kharkov battles is actually about. I would have to skim through the rules. In fact, let me do that. Yeah, so it does do second and third Kharkov in this one, and Operation Star. So it covers it's covering similar content, right? But at a different ground scale. Some of the rules are very similar. For it's got the divisional integrity stuff, and it's got some of the there's some new rules though. It's got cadre units, which are the same, similar supply rules, but a little bit more finicky. And I'm kind of doing a segue here a little bit with this video. So if you're looking for more content about adopted mindsets and stuff like that, I'm done with that topic. I'm moving on to VCS, because it struck me that these two games are similar but different. And as I'm reading the rules, I'm wondering how the game's going to play out, and whether we'll get the same result given the different scale. Because like the leaving zones of control is different. Zones of control and rules are different. You have to have a minimum number of stacking points there or strength points there. Well, it's the stacking points basically, to facilitate having a zone of control. You've got the parent integrity, you've got combined arms attack still. There's some optional rules sort of scattered around the game. The supply rules, they're a little more than there's a couple extra steps in there that I'm not sure are worth the effort. I don't know why I can only be 3 movement points away from, or 3 hexes away from a Soviet HQ or a German HQ, but I can go 5 hexes or 4 hexes, I think it's 4 or 5, one of the two, to a road. Why can't it just both be either 5 or 3 or 4, or whether pick one, right? What's the difference in getting from a supply depot to a unit off-road versus going a number of hexes to a road and then to a supply depot? I'm confused. I confuse easily. Anyway, lots of little bits and pieces, different advanced after combat rules, overrun results are the same, transferring or transplanting, turning retreats into step losses is an option still. There's now rubble and entrenchments and hesitation and indecision rules, which are different. There's a tank doctrine thing. There's some more to it, but it's similar rules in terms of the variable combat strengths for the various units, and the CRT is very similar. Movement rules are very similar. You've got your tactical movement, rail movement, strategic movement, all those same things. There's a lot of plus or minus column shift, negation and addition, depending on whether you're an attacker or a defender. So there's all that sort of fun stuff as well. But anyway, I'm going to be curious to see how that plays out, and I'm curious about how VCS is going to run and what they're going to do with that system. Not just Greg, but also NES, New England Simulations, uses that system quite extensively. They're doing kind of like a reboot of Hell's Highway, I believe, with the VCS system, I think. Am I right there? Don't know. But I think it's under the VCS system. In any case, I'm curious about how something that has been assumed to be innovative and good, generally speaking, over a very long period of time, and with releases by a wide range of designers over time, how that will stand the test of time going forward, and whether folks are going to step back and go, you know what, let's talk about this, and let's be a little more circumspect about the system and its value, right? Does it represent the history well? I don't know if it does. We'll have to see when I play it. Final thought. Sometimes when I push on a design, and I won't say a designer, but on a design, and I have criticisms of it, that's me not having the adopted opinion, perhaps. But it's also me looking for and celebrating innovation and differences and newness and creativity and designers, passion. I love finding new designers and new designs. And I also believe that I generally tend to hold pre-existing or long-standing designers to a higher standard in terms of completeness and errata and quality of gameplay, and certainly hold publishers who've been around for a while to a higher standard of publishing quality, user interface, charts, tables, things of that nature. So I think all of us should be less afraid or less concerned about being the lone voice out in the wilderness, right? Saying, well, I don't like that game, or I do like that game and everyone else hates it because it's an adopted opinion. We can have both positive and negative adopted opinions. Don't be afraid to stand up and go, hey, I don't like that, or I do like that system. That system is awesome, and here are the 3 reasons why, or 5 reasons why, or whatever it is. Let's not have the crowd tell us what we need to think, or what we should think, or what we need to believe. I think it's important for us to just take these games at face value, try them for yourself, enjoy them for yourself, share your opinions with others, and back it up with some half decent rational thoughts, and let's have a conversation about them so that we can all have a more informed view about wargaming and the game titles that you're playing and I'm playing. And we can, maybe we'll inspire a designer to make a change or do something different with the next release of a game that he comes out with or she comes out with. Look at me being all inclusive. Let's speak up and speak out and be thoughtful and respectful with it as best we can, unless it's a complete shit show. Then all bets are off. But anyway, that's all I had to say. I know that was a long 20 minutes, but thanks for watching. Share your thoughts and ideas in the comments. Apparently, I've just realized I'm supposed to say share and like or share and subscribe or something and hit the dingy bell thing so that you get a notification that I have made a video, or don't, because I just go play games. Go roll dice, have fun. Have a great weekend. Later.